We go now to Eliana Ros-Lehtinen, Chairman of the Middle East Subcommittee and a leader on Iran sanctions efforts.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Ambassador Sherman, last year before this committee, you testified that, quote, "The ultimate goal of any negotiations is that Iran come into full compliance with UN Security Council resolutions," end quote. Those Security Council resolutions demanded that Iran suspend all enrichment-related and reprocessing activities, and that Iran ratify and implement the IAEA's additional protocols to strengthen safeguard measures. This morning in front of the Senate Foreign Relations, you said that the administration's preference is that Iran not have enrichment capabilities, but then conceded that President Obama and your team have admitted that there is likely going to be an enrichment program. Has Iran come into compliance with the UN Security Council resolutions, including the implementation of the additional protocols? Will it be in compliance when a comprehensive agreement is reached? If they don't, have U.S. negotiators failed to meet our goals, as you stated it was last year? You also said that this is also about verification, monitoring, and assurances to the international community. Of course, this is all based on the assumption that Iran has fully disclosed its program, a program that it kept covert for 2 decades, and that it is what will likely be proven to be the fatal and faulty assumption in these talks. DOD has assessed earlier this year that the U.S. isn't able to detect or locate undeclared or covert nuclear activities. So how confident can we be that this regime that has operated a covert nuclear program for decades, that has ignored UN Security Council resolutions, that has openly bragged about deceiving the West while in nuclear negotiations, has declared all of its facilities, activities, and programs to us, specifically its suspected military programs? And would any potential comprehensive agreement encompass anything that may be disclosed or detected after an agreement is signed, or are we just dealing with these very specific facilities? As part of the extension agreement, we have agreed to another $2.8 billion in sanctions relief for Iran, as well as allowing Iran to continue to export oil at a restricted level. And at our subcommittee hearing last month with Deputy Assistant Secretary for Energy Diplomacy, Amos Hochstein, I had asked him about reports that Iran was sending hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil to Assad to keep that thug and his war running, yet we are not counting this against Iran's restricted levels. We were all shocked to hear that we don't count that against Iran's limits because Syria isn't actually paying for the oil. And you repeated that this morning in the Senate. But what I had suggested to Mr. Hochstein was that this issue is bigger than just Iran sending oil to Assad and us not counting it for the JPOA. It goes to the heart of our policies as they relate to Iran and Syria, and it's about our U.S. national security interest. How much is Iran sending? How do we allow this to continue while we still negotiate a comprehensive agreement? How do we justify allowing Iran to send oil to Assad to keep his brutal regime afloat? And what else is Iran sending that we are ignoring? And if this were against the terms and Iran was caught in violation, who is in charge and what mechanism do we have to enforce the terms?
Thank you, Congresswoman. Indeed, all of the UN Security Council resolutions will have to be addressed if we are to get to a comprehensive agreement. Indeed, Iran would have to agree to the additional protocol, and I believe that they will, as well as modified Code 3.1. In addition, specific enhanced monitoring and verification mechanisms that will be attached to each of the elements as they get agreed to in a comprehensive agreement. Part of the reason for the additional protocol and for enhanced monitoring even beyond that is to deal with the covert path, to make sure that there aren't undeclared facilities. And in fact, one of the things the IAEA does after a country signs on to the additional protocol, and it takes some time to do, is to create what is called the broader conclusions that in fact there are no undeclared sites. That will take the IAEA some time to do, and some of our sanctions relief will be tied to reaching that benchmark among other benchmarks as we put together a comprehensive agreement. So we are quite concerned to make sure that we cut off the covert pathway. There is no way 100% to ensure that any country in the world doesn't have a covert site, but what we can do is put the mechanisms in place to do two things. One, detect it if it's happening, and two, stop it before it can become a problem to us and to our national security. In terms of the $2.8 billion, let me make one comment and then let Undersecretary Cohn mention this. The 4-month extension was really just a continuation of the JPOA, and as such, the prorated amount for those 4 months is $2.8 billion in their restricted funds. It's no U.S. taxpayer money. It's restricted money that is frozen in accounts that Iran has that they will now have access to. So it simply was a straight piece of arithmetic. However, because we have such great concerns, we did get Iran to agree to take 2 additional steps that go beyond the JPOA. That is to take some of their 20% oxidized enriched uranium, which was part of the JPOA, and take 25 kilograms of it, which is about the amount they can get done during this 4-month period, and turn them into metal plates for the Tehran research reactor, which make it virtually impossible for that to be converted back into enriched uranium. And we got them to agree to dilute all of their up to 2% enriched uranium stockpile, which is over 3 metric tons of up to 2% enriched uranium. So these are 2 important steps that we got in addition to this as well. As for Syria, I'll be glad to come back to that in someone else's question.
Very good, very good.